Is the Japanese voice acting industry in trouble? Nope, this is not clickbait. This is actually a subject being talked about in Japan. Let's find out what's going on. Be sure to stick around. First off, if you aren't familiar with the Japanese voice acting industry, then you can check out one of my videos on Seiyuu, the Japanese term used for voice actors/actresses. You'll discover that Seiyuu typically become famous for a particular character that they voiced within an anime that became really popular. However, there is something else that I usually mention about them too, that they would also get involved in doing other activities outside of voice acting. For example, music, and I don't just mean singing the main theme song to an anime, but actually releasing their own albums and even holding massive concerts with thousands of dedicated fans coming to see them live. Some Seiyuu might even get to have their own regular radio or TV shows, even having on special guests. There are even Seiyuu that will go beyond just lending their voice for a role and actually act in it themselves. Now, some of you might be thinking, that seems kind of similar to another occupation I frequently cover on my channel. Idols. Well, these Seiyuu that actively do all these different kinds of things are actually called, wait for it, Idoru Seiyuu. Yep, I just can't seem to get away from idols. Anyway, I have noticed that many overseas that talk about Seiyuu understand that Seiyuu may become singers, etc., but don't really know about this specific term. Of course, this wasn't always a thing. We can trace the origin of Idoru Seiyuu to the late 70s and 80s, where thanks to massive anime hits such as Uchu Senkan Yamato or Space Battleship Yamato in English and Kidou Senshi Gundam or Mobile Suit Gundam, attention started to be brought to the Seiyuu that were voicing the characters. These Seiyuu such as Kamiya Akira and Ichiryu Sai Harumi would be on the front cover of anime magazines, would have their photos start being sold in shops, essentially gain fame and be placed under the public spotlight similar to Japanese idols. This would eventually lead to the birth of Aniraji, radio programs centered around anime/games with a Seiyuu presenter. The range of Seiyuu activities would further increase thanks to Seiyuu deciding to go the music route too, most notably Slapstick, a band made up of 5 members, all of them Seiyuu. Seiyuu were no longer just working behind the scenes, but very active out in the public eye, giving a glimpse into the media mix marketing strategy that would be utilized by many within the Japanese entertainment industry. Enter the 90s and we would even start seeing magazines exclusively covering Seiyuu. Through their radio shows, Seiyuu would gain more of their own fans, leading to CD releases and having their own concerts. This is the age that firmly cemented the existence of Idoru Seiyuu. And with the spread of the internet in the 2000s allowing them more methods to market themselves and reach fans, the popularity of Seiyuu just further increased both in and even out of Japan. Seiyuu would start regularly appearing in popular TV shows as guests, and we would even start seeing more and more Seiyuu appearing in dramas and movies. However, it seems the age of Idoru Seiyuu as we know it may be coming to an end. Not only that, the industry in general seems to be in a bit of trouble. How so? Well, according to this article on Kodansha's business-orientated news platform Gendai Business, sales of CDs and photobooks of Seiyuu are apparently decreasing, and the general age range of fans coming to concerts and talk events are on the rise, possibly showing that those younger might not be as interested. Instead, some would-be fans are seemingly turning to something else, namely Vtubers. Oh boy. A big turning point for this was apparently the pandemic. As some of you might be aware, Vtubers received a massive boost in views thanks to everyone needing to stay at home. Normally, to go see and possibly interact with a Seiyuu, you would have needed to pay some money, which got you maybe 2 or 3 hours for some event. But with events being cancelled due to the pandemic, those with an already strong presence online that you could see and interact with for free, like Vtubers, ended up greatly benefiting, exposing them as new targets for oshikatsu. I've spoken about oshikatsu before, but essentially it means activities showing support for that person, character or group etc. that you like. Of course, here the argument can also be made that Vtubers are quite a different thing from Seiyuu, but I can see there being some overlap in terms of their fan bases, and since Vtuber fans do tend to be younger, it would make sense that Vtubers have had some effect on Seiyuu being able to draw in younger fans. Also, like Idoru Seiyuu, Vtubers can also release albums, hold concerts, or do special talk events, but they also frequently collab with various companies too, meaning there is always something new for fans to look forward to. It also helps that Vtubers don't visually age, and unlike Seiyuu who can get caught up in things like scandals, the anonymity of Vtubers help them avoid a lot of drama. Well, kind of. The other problem is noted to be within the Seiyuu industry itself. Now, what's interesting is that Seiyuu is actually still a very popular occupation, but therein lies partly the problem. You see, there's only a handful of Seiyuu that can truly become successful, and many of you that are also into anime might have noticed that a lot of the bigger roles do tend to be taken by the same Seiyuu. I've covered a few very well-known Seiyuu before, and something they did tend to have in common is having very long careers covering several roles within the same year. Unfortunately, as a result of this, many newer and or younger Seiyuu find it really hard to get bigger roles, and overall this has caused a lot of stagnation within the Seiyuu industry. There is one more thing that doesn't help either, something linked to Idol Seiyuu. Like I mentioned, these are Seiyuu that are similar to idols in certain ways, and one trait that is glaringly obvious about them is their physical attractiveness. Now, if you're voice acting, it shouldn't really matter what you look like, but it's apparently easier for agencies to quote-unquote sell newer talent who look attractive. That's especially if they haven't any experience under their belt yet. And yes, attractiveness is indeed a big draw for a lot of would-be fans, whether we like it or not. This didn't seem to be a thing back in the day, so it shows that due to these quote-unquote new needs of Seiyuu, the industry adjusted itself in terms of what kind of talent is sought. Paste. The last issue, which honestly is not just affecting the Seiyuu industry, is of course AI. In fact, it was just last year that 26 Seiyuu took part in an awareness campaign taking a collective stance against the unauthorized use of Seiyuu's voices by generative AI. Apparently, it was reported that some were making and even selling content online that contained the replicated voices of Seiyuu through generative AI without permission, prompting this response. However, just before this, it was reported that one of Japan's most famous Seiyuu agencies, Aoni Productions, had partnered with a tech company called Koei Font to create AI-generated versions of the voices of some of Aoni's talent. This seems to be limited to mainly translation, but it wouldn't be surprising that we would see AI actually taking away some opportunities from Seiyuu if companies decide an AI-generated version would be sufficient. I mean, this has actually started to happen in other countries. So yes, things are changing for Seiyuu, and especially Idol Seiyuu, and we can't be sure what the future holds. But anime is as popular as ever, as like I said, many people do want to become a Seiyuu. It just probably means the methods to attract newer fans needs to change. In fact, we have seen in recent years Seiyuu actually collaborating with Vtubers. We've also been seeing Seiyuu become streamers themselves, which definitely increases the amount of interaction they have with fans, so I think many Seiyuu do recognize the old methods aren't working as well. Personally, I think there is space for everyone, but we also do need to address the elephant in the room, which is Japan's population is shrinking, meaning there are less and less young people, so that's an important factor we need to consider as well. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Do let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, along with any suggestions for future topics. I can't believe this channel is close to 30k. Man, that's pretty insane. A big thank you to all that have subscribed. I really appreciate it. Please look forward to more videos coming your way. But until next time, thank you again. Take care. Peace. Bye.